you asked for part 2 of this video on the well. As you can see from the intro clip into the video, my father-in-law and I were pulling the casing up. We thought we could pull the 1.5-inch casing up, which would have given us a shot down about 20 feet to start. But with the tractor lifting on it, it just pulled the hook right through the pipe because that one's set. So we went ahead and pulled the other pipe out in sections on the well that we had in the last video. Now we had pretty good water flow, as you remember from that video. We pumped it probably 20 minutes and had 45 PSI running, and it didn't go dry. My fear is, as it dries off in the summer, that well's just not deep enough to get down into the good water that's uninterrupted. We're putting drip irrigation in the garden system, so I need to have a good solid well. So today we're going to go a whole different route. We're going to pull that casing out, and we're going to show you how to do another well, which will be the 3rd well series on how to drill a well. You remember in our last video, we started hitting this white sand down in the bottom, and it just really filled in as fast as we could move it. Probably the top of the water sands, and it just was flushing in because the groundwater was so high. What really put an end to going any deeper in that well, and I don't think I mentioned that in the video, is we were using a pipe wrench to pull sections out when we had suction on the well. We'd put the pipe wrench against the tractor bucket, set it on the pipe and bind it, and then lift that drill rig back out. Tracy dropped the pipe wrench down the hole, and once that pipe wrench got into that sand in the bottom, the cutter didn't get past it. We couldn't really go any deeper. But I think it was a good video on how to show you how to cut that well, and in most places you can cut it down as deep as you need, 30-40 feet. But today we're going to go ahead and pull that casing out of that well, and we're going to use a 3rd method for well drilling, which will give you an idea how that goes. So let me show you what parts we're going to use today. Okay, so we got the casing out of the well. Today we're going to do what's called a sand point well. This we picked up at Tractor Supply. You can pick it up at Home Depot, Lowe's, about any farm supply store. This is the way that a lot of wells are drilled, particularly down here in the south. This is a filtered screen, has a solid steel driving point on it, and it goes down in the well. This will be the tip of your well. You connect it with a connector and 10-foot sections of 1.25-inch galvanized pipe. Now, if you're going much more than 30 feet, you probably ought to go up to a 2-inch pipe. But we'll put these together. You cannot use the standard cast iron fittings that you pick up at a hardware store. They'll split when you're trying to drive this. This is a stainless steel hardened coupler that goes on there, and you also have to have a hardened drive cap on top or you'll split that. So we're going to get everything set. We're going to drop this down in that well, and we're going to start driving and see if we either A, get to the bottom, or B, kill ourselves in the process. So here we go. Ran in a little bit of problem here. I'm starting to think at about 18 feet this well is going to be a disaster no matter what we do. 18 feet is where we ran into the white sand last time. As you can see, this time we're at about 18 feet, 19 feet probably, and our drive cap is on top crooked. When we thread this, what did I just kick down in there? It wasn't that cap. Okay, we won't have another tool. Hand me that cap there, please. Our threads have become mangled. The cap itself looks good inside, but the galvanized pipe got mashed from where we were driving on it. We think that we can still thread this on to get another section of pipe in and be okay. So we're gonna run over to Home Depot or Lowe's and see if they've got a short nipple of pipe that we can put the drive cap on that we can use as a sacrifice. So we'll get back in a little bit and see what happens. Okay guys, we're still struggling with this ridiculous well that we're trying to put in. The 3 methods to do it, no way seems to be easy. The sand point's going down. We're at 24 feet now roughly, but where that was bending from the sledgehammer, it continues to bend. So now we put a weld into it along the edge and see if that weld will hold, and that should take us down 28 feet or so once we can get this pipe ground level. And then we've got to make a decision whether we want to cut it off and rethread this, or whether we want to try to drive it below ground with the risk that it might break. So we're going to get back to driving and see what it does. And the worst that can happen is it breaks and we have to fix it, but we know that. So So it's been a week since we started this project, putting the sand point down into the existing well, trying to get it in deeper. Currently we're sitting at 29 feet. I've got to go out tomorrow. Our short section of dry pipe, when the pipe gets further in the ground, this is the drive head you need to thread on. It is seized on this piece of pipe, so I've got to go buy a new drive head to put the last few feet in. My neighbor over here is at 27 feet, and the neighbor closest to me is at 31 feet. So we're really close to the water table now, the way we've got it figured. If we go any more than this section of pipe, we kind of have to abandon and move to a 2-inch sand point and start the process all over again. Not the worst thing that can happen in the world, but not something I look forward to. Even though it's been a week, we only worked on it last Saturday, and we worked on it a few hours today and a couple hours one evening this week. So we don't have a lot of time in driving it. We're using a standard T-post fence driver is what we're driving with. It's weighted in this end and pushing it down. Wear a good pair of gloves, but we're getting in there. The driving's getting a little bit easier now. We're through that middle sand layer that's real heavy here, that white sand that we've shown you before. So we should be getting really close to hitting the water table now, and provided all the fittings stay tight and we don't have any air leaks, this pipe will suffice as well casing. We'll be able to hook the pump right to it. If we do lose air pressure, if any of the fittings came loose, we can always thread a 1-inch poly pipe all the way down close to the sand point and feed that up and feed that directly to the well pump. But we're kind of excited because it hasn't rained here any substantial amount now in over a month. Some of my earlier videos, we had 4 straight months of rain, and now it's so dry. It's very, very, very dry. But the water tables here never run dry. So as long as you can tap into the water table, you'll have water for your gardens. And we've got drip irrigation, which will be another episode coming up soon, where we're going to show you how to put in a simple drip irrigation system, which works far better than aerial watering on gardens because it waters directly to the roots. We'll make a video on it next. Still got some more bus videos to do. We've got to build that thing into a really cool RV, so there'll be a lot of that on the channel, but we're going to keep the homesteading theme going also. So tomorrow I'll catch back up after I get a drive head. We'll continue to drive this down. We're down to where we have about 5 foot of pipe sticking out of the ground, and like I said, that's really the maximum we can drive with this sand point on 1.25 inches. 25 foot is considered the bottom line on a sand point well, according to what people say, but 25 to 30 feet is okay on 1.25 inches as long as you've got good seals on your connections. But anything past 30, 32 feet, you really want to go back to a 2-inch casing for better water volume. But let's see how it does, and I'm going in for this evening, and we'll be back at it again tomorrow. So y'all have a good evening. Well, the next problem has crept up. As you know, we had the drive cap stuck on the piece of short pipe and had to go buy a new drive cap. Well, that drive cap doesn't fit on the driver. So now we have a whole nother project to do. But if it weren't for projects, hon, we wouldn't do anything.
Right.
We'll just make it smaller. Not one thing, it'll be another. Here we go. We're going to start driving now. We're at 28 feet. We can get down to about 31 feet today. Hopefully we hit water by then. Because then we're going to be too short and we've got to get another short piece and a coupling. And it appears everyone in and around every single store is sold out of couplings, sand points, and I got the last cap last night. So a lot of people must be setting wells, and we're gonna have to wait and see if somebody gets one in. One recommendation I'll make if you're using the T-post driver, put on a good pair of gloves and then put on another pair of gloves. I choose to put welding gloves on over top of the other ones because your hands are going to get tired. Abs don't hurt.
Yeah, my abs are sore.
Well, you gotta put that on with the hole down. That's all we can do. We went down from 28 to 31 foot. Tracy and I driving the pipe. Took us about, what, 20 minutes
20 minutes
to get that. It's getting a lot easier, but we're still not in the water yet. I'd hope to finish part 2 up by having this down in the water, and in part 3 only be showing how to hook up a well, run the in-ground lines, and hook to hydrants, various things across the farm. It looks like we're going to end part 2 here because I have to wait until the coupling that connects the two pieces of pipe comes back in stock somewhere. Unfortunately, throughout America, there are shortages of everything. So I'm going to put an end to part 2 right here. Put in your comments what you'd like to see in part 3, and we'll try to wrap all that up in part 3. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We really need that subscription. So click subscribe. It's free, doesn't cost anything, doesn't hurt. So just click subscribe because we need to up our subscribers, because that's what helps us keep putting videos out and help support the channel. So thanks, and we'll catch you in part 3.